The galaxy was burning. Flames of war spread from one star system to another, and every alien council chamber echoed with the same word, Erebus. The Erebus was no ordinary warship. It was a giant vessel, older than most civilizations, drifting across the stars like a predator that never slept. It had no single master, no known builders, and no mercy. Entire fleets once tried to control it, but each time they boarded, the Erebus turned its weapons against them. No species ever left alive, and yet the warship still floated in the void, silent and undefeated, as if waiting for something. Now, after centuries of silence, it had awakened. Inside the Grand Council Hall, hundreds of alien leaders sat in fear. Holograms filled the air, showing the ship's shadow crossing different sectors of space. Its black armor absorbed all light, making it look like a piece of night itself. Red lines pulsed along its hull like veins of fire. The ship's size dwarfed entire fleets. Some said it was as large as a small moon. An elder alien stood and spoke, his voice trembling. "This machine has destroyed everything we sent against it. For ages it wandered without direction. Now it moves with purpose. It heads toward a new world." Another alien counselor demanded, "Which world?" The hologram shifted, and gasps filled the chamber. The image of a blue planet rotated slowly, white clouds swirling above green lands and deep oceans. "Earth," the elder whispered. The council broke into chaos. Some shouted to warn humanity. Others demanded that the planet be destroyed before Erebus reached it. But deep down, every species in that chamber knew the truth. They were not afraid for Earth. They were afraid for themselves. If the Erebus accepted a new master, that master could rule the galaxy. The alien leaders argued while the warship drew closer to Earth with every passing hour. Far away, in Earth's orbit, human defense satellites picked up the first signals. At first, the object seemed like a dark shadow blocking the stars. Then the scanners lit up in alarm. The size, the power readings, the weapons, it all matched ancient alien warnings. The silent warship had arrived. On Earth, panic spread quickly. News channels replayed the same terrifying images. A giant black warship moving toward Earth at a slow, unstoppable pace. Military leaders debated whether to fire on it or stay silent. Scientists tried to decode its energy signals. Politicians gave speeches about peace, but none of them believed words would stop a ship that had already destroyed entire armadas. The people of Earth looked to the sky. Waiting, for days the Erebus did not attack. It simply moved closer until its shadow covered the orbit above the planet. Its presence was like a storm cloud that refused to break, pressing on every mind below. In secret meetings, human leaders argued. Some wanted to launch every nuclear weapon Earth had. Others suggested trying to communicate. A few believed the ship was not a threat, but a test. Finally, a decision was made. A single human would be sent to board the Erebus. If the ship killed him, Earth would fight. If not, perhaps there was hope. The chosen human was Captain Daniel Cross, a soldier who had survived more wars than most men could count. He was scarred, quiet, and known for refusing to surrender no matter the odds. His commanders believed if anyone had a chance, it was him. The world watched as his shuttle launched. Cameras followed the small craft as it approached the massive warship. The Erebus loomed larger and larger on every screen. Its surface was black steel, but alive with crimson lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. The shuttle looked like a toy next to it. Then, for the first time in history, the Erebus responded. A massive gate opened on its side, revealing a hangar glowing with cold white light. The entire galaxy had records of failed attempts to enter the ship. No door had ever opened for any alien. Yet here, above Earth, the forbidden warship had opened its heart. In the alien council hall, leaders stared in shock. On Earth, people held their breath. Inside the shuttle, Daniel gripped his weapon. His face was calm, but his pulse thundered. He knew the stories. He had seen the bones of ships destroyed by this monster, and now he was flying straight into its mouth. The shuttle entered the hangar. The door closed behind him, sealing out the stars. Daniel stepped onto the warship's floor. The metal beneath his boots felt alive, humming with energy. The air was heavy, cold, and strange. Shadows twisted across the walls, forming shapes that almost looked like faces. The silence was worse than any battlefield he had known. Then, without warning, the ship spoke. A voice, deep and ancient, filled the air. It was not mechanical. It was not alien. It was something between. Human, the voice said. Daniel froze. His weapon trembled in his hand. The voice continued, slow and powerful. You are the first of your kind to enter. The others failed, but you are different. The silence pressed in again, and Daniel's heart pounded like a drum. The Erebus spoke once more, its voice echoing through every corridor of the massive ship. You are worthy. And with that, the warship came alive, lights blazing across its endless halls, engines rumbling like thunder. For the first time in history, the Erebus had chosen. The galaxy could not believe what it had just heard. Across star systems, alien leaders, generals, and spies replayed the same recording again and again. The silent warship, Erebus, speaking to a human. No alien species had ever been accepted. Thousands had tried, and thousands had died. But now, for the first time in history, the ship had opened its gates and chosen a human soldier. The alien council sat in silence. Their faces were pale, their voices hushed. One elder finally whispered what they all feared. If the Erebus has accepted humanity, then the galaxy belongs to them. Panic rippled through the chamber. Some demanded immediate war against Earth. Others argued that no fleet could stand against the Erebus. A few said perhaps the ship had made a mistake, but deep in their hearts they all knew the truth. This warship did not make mistakes. It chose with purpose, and it had chosen humanity. Meanwhile, inside the ship, Captain Daniel Cross stood alone. The floor beneath him pulsed with faint red light, as if the ship itself was alive. He gripped his rifle tighter, scanning the endless metal corridors that stretched out in every direction. The air smelled of iron and something colder, something not natural. The voice of the warship echoed again. Do not fear. I will not harm you, human. But you must prove yourself. Daniel swallowed hard. Prove myself. Ow! The lights shifted. The walls seemed to twist, rearranging into new paths. Ahead, a long hallway opened. At its end, doors of black steel slid apart. Enter, the voice commanded. Daniel hesitated. He had been on battlefields where tanks burned and soldiers screamed. He had fought enemies with claws and with fire. But this was different. This was walking into the heart of a legend that had killed entire armies. Still, he stepped forward. The chamber beyond was massive, shaped like a cathedral of war. Towering walls rose into shadows, lined with broken weapons and shattered banners of alien empires long dead. At the center stood rows of thrones, each with a skeleton still sitting upright. Alien skulls stared at him with empty sockets. Some had tusks, others had fangs. A few had crowns made of crystal or bone. All of them had once been captains. All of them had failed. Daniel's breath caught. These were the remains of those who had tried to command Erebus before him. The voice spoke again, deeper this time. They were found unworthy. Greed, cruelty, weakness, all failed my judgment. But you, human, carry something different. Daniel's eyes narrowed. And what happens if I fail? The thrones shook and the skeletons crumbled into dust. The voice answered with a chilling calm. Then your Earth burns. Outside, in Earth's orbit, military command centers watched Daniel's every move through the shuttle's cameras. Generals argued. Scientists tried to decode the strange energy signals, and civilians prayed. Some believed Daniel was humanity's savior. Others feared he was walking into a trap that would doom them all. On the streets of Earth's cities, crowds stared at giant screens. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers in their barracks sat in silence. The whole world was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen inside that ship. Back within the Erebus, Daniel walked further. Suddenly, the chamber around him shifted. The walls melted into light and the ground shook. He was no longer standing among skeletons. Instead, he stood on a battlefield. Explosions ripped through the air. Alien war machines thundered across a wasteland. Plasma bolts hissed overhead. Daniel hit the dirt as smoke and fire filled his lungs. He spun, aiming his rifle, but the enemy soldiers charging at him were like no species he knew. They were constructs, phantoms of wars long past. Yet their weapons were real, their attacks deadly. The voice spoke as the battlefield raged. "This is the trial. Survive and you live. Fail and your people perish." Daniel had no choice. He rose and fired. Hours, or perhaps only minutes, passed in the storm of combat. Daniel fought with everything he had. He used cover, set traps, and pushed forward inch by inch. The phantom enemies never stopped. For every one he killed, two more appeared. His arms ached, his body burned, but he refused to fall. The voice watched, cold and patient. Finally, when Daniel was near collapse, the battlefield dissolved into mist. The chamber returned. The skeletons were gone. The weapons, the smoke, the fire, gone. Only silence remained. Daniel staggered, dropping to one knee. His rifle trembled in his grip. His chest heaved with exhaustion. Then slowly, the captain's throne at the center of the chamber lit up. The voice of the warship filled every corner of the ship, louder than before, shaking the air like thunder. "You did not break. You did not surrender. You are human. You are worthy." The floor shook violently as the ship came alive. Massive engines roared, weapons hummed with power, and lights raced across its colossal hull. Every alien council screen in the galaxy lit up with the same terrifying sight: the Erebus, awakening fully under a human captain. The galaxy could not sleep. Across alien worlds, broadcasts repeated the same chilling message: the Erebus, the warship that no species had ever mastered, now had a human captain. Alien leaders argued late into the night, their councils filled with fear. Some called for a united fleet to destroy Earth before the human learned to use the ship. Others warned that no weapon, no matter how powerful, could stand against Erebus once it chose a master. Meanwhile, in the heart of the great warship, Captain Daniel Cross stood before the glowing throne. The air vibrated with the hum of engines. The ship's crimson lines pulsed faster, as if its blood had begun to flow once more. The voice of the Erebus echoed deep within the chamber. "You have survived my first trial, human, but you are not yet proven. A weapon of this scale does not obey lightly. If you wish to command me, you must face the test of command itself." Daniel's hand tightened on his rifle. "What test?" The floor trembled. The walls dissolved into shifting light, and suddenly Daniel stood on the warship's vast bridge. Giant windows revealed stars burning against the void. Control panels lit up across the room, glowing symbols shifting into patterns he did not understand. Then, outside the window, fleets appeared, hundreds of alien warships, their banners marked with symbols of different empires. Their weapons flared, their cannons locked onto him. It was a battle too massive for one man to survive. Daniel whispered, "This isn't real," but the ship's voice rumbled in reply. "It is real enough. Command or die, strategy or failure. This is the terrible test." The alien fleets moved in, weapons ready to fire. Daniel's mind raced. He had been a soldier all his life, but never a commander of fleets. He remembered lessons from war: discipline, timing, courage under fire. With shaking hands, he touched the controls before him. The Erebus reacted instantly. Entire wings of phantom drones launched from its hangars. Batteries of cannons unfolded, glowing with fire. The ship itself seemed to wait for Daniel's orders, like a predator held back by its leash. "All right," Daniel muttered through clenched teeth. "Let's fight." The first wave of alien ships attacked. Blue plasma streaked across the void, hammering against Erebus's shields. The bridge shook violently, but the ship did not break. Daniel shouted commands, moving the warship with surprising grace. The drones swarmed out, striking enemy formations with precise strikes. For every enemy destroyed, 3 more closed in. The voice of the Erebus whispered coldly, "Do you see, human? Strength alone is not enough. Strategy wins wars. What will you choose?" Daniel scanned the battlefield. The aliens were spread too wide. If he attacked one group, the others would flank him. He needed something bold, something reckless, something human. "Pull back," he ordered. The warship lurched, retreating toward a dense asteroid field behind it. The enemy fleets pursued, certain they were winning. But inside the rocks, Daniel made his move. Split fire. Draw them in. Then collapse the field. The Erebus obeyed. Its cannons fired not at ships, but at the asteroids. Giant rocks shattered, slamming into enemy vessels, tearing their formations apart. Chaos spread through the enemy lines. In moments, half the fleet was destroyed, not by direct attack, but by Daniel's trap. The phantom battle raged on. Daniel fought with every ounce of his will. Sweat poured down his face. His hands shook, but his eyes stayed sharp. He ordered feints, ambushes, and counterstrikes, turning the overwhelming enemy force into pieces of wreckage. Finally, the last enemy ship exploded into fire. Silence filled the bridge. Daniel collapsed into the captain's chair, breathing hard. His body ached, his vision swam, but he was still alive. The voice of the Erebus thundered in triumph. "You have passed the terrible test. You are not just a warrior. You are a commander, and with command comes power." The entire ship rumbled. Energy surged through its veins. The crimson lights burned brighter, and the engines roared like the heartbeat of a god. Across the galaxy, hidden alien sensors detected the shift. The Erebus was no longer just awake, it was preparing for war. On Earth, leaders gathered in dark rooms, watching the signals from Daniel's mission. Some were filled with awe, others with terror. Could one man truly control such a weapon? Could humanity bear the weight of what was coming? In the alien council, fear turned to desperation. "If the humans learn to use Erebus in battle," one alien elder growled, "no empire will survive. We must destroy them now, before it is too late." Armies began to mobilize. Fleets were ordered toward Earth. The galaxy had made its choice. If humanity commanded Erebus, they would all strike before the balance of power was lost forever. Back inside the warship, Daniel felt the seat beneath him mold to his body, as if the ship itself had accepted him. 1,000 displays lit up, showing distant stars, enemy fleets, and unknown galaxies. Then the ship's voice grew quieter, almost like a whisper in his ear. "You have proven your strength. Now hear the truth. I was not built by those who claim the stars. I was built for a single purpose: to find a species worthy of survival." Daniel froze, staring at the glowing controls. His throat went dry. "What do you mean?" he demanded. The ship's voice deepened into something far older, far darker, because the true enemy, the one that even your enemies fear, has already awakened. Daniel's eyes widened as the windows of the bridge shifted, showing a distant massive shadow moving among the stars. It was bigger than fleets, older than empires, and coming straight for them. The galaxy erupted in fear. News of the Erebus choosing a human spread faster than light. From the frozen moons of the Zirek to the burning deserts of the Vorn, entire civilizations whispered the same words. The warship has a master. Alien councils broke into chaos. Some species begged for peace with humanity. Others demanded war before the humans could unleash the ship's true power. But in every council chamber, one truth burned like fire. If the Erebus truly obeyed a human, then no empire was safe. In a vast chamber lit by green fire, the Galactic Council gathered in secret. Hundreds of alien leaders floated above a holographic map of the galaxy. At its center spun an image of Earth. Orbiting above it, the black shape of Erebus glowed with crimson veins. An insectoid general slammed his claws against the table. "We have allowed this to go too far. The humans are primitives. They should never control such a weapon," a scaled alien hissed, her eyes burning with fear. "No fleet has ever survived against Erebus. To fight it is suicide." A third voice, deeper and colder, cut through the noise. An ancient reptilian elder leaned forward, his gaze sharp. "If humanity commands that ship, they will not remain on their world. They will rise. They will spread, and they will conquer. We must strike now while they are still learning." One by one, the council agreed. Within hours, fleets began to gather. Thousands of warships from dozens of species moved toward Earth. On Earth, the sky filled with fear. Screens across the planet showed endless streams of alien fleets closing in. Entire nations braced for invasion. Civilians crowded into bunkers. Soldiers lined up at launch bays, staring at the black warship hanging silently above their world. Inside Erebus, Captain Daniel Cross stood at the command bridge. He could see the enemy fleets forming beyond Earth's orbit. The ship's voice spoke with calm power. "They come for you, human. They do not fear your world. They fear me. They fear that I have chosen you." Daniel clenched his fists. "Can we stop them?" The warship hummed, its crimson lights pulsing. "I was built for war. Against them I will not fall." The ship's systems awakened. Weapons unfolded like the wings of a predator. Shields shimmered to life, glowing with deadly power. Across Earth, people cheered and wept as they watched the ship prepare for battle. The first alien fleet arrived. Hundreds of ships, their weapons charged, aimed straight at Earth. A warning broadcast flashed across all channels. A tall, silver-skinned alien appeared, his voice sharp with hatred. "Humans, surrender the Erebus. Hand over your captain, or your planet will burn." Daniel stared at the transmission. He could feel the fear in their demand. These aliens weren't offering peace. They were desperate. He answered with a single order: "Erebus, fire." The warship obeyed instantly. A beam of crimson light shot across the void. In a single strike, half the alien fleet was gone, reduced to fire and wreckage. On Earth, billions of humans gasped. In the alien council, leaders froze in silence. For the first time, the galaxy saw what it had always feared. The Erebus had a master who was not alien. A human now commanded the deadliest warship in history. The remaining alien ships pulled back, but not far. More fleets were already on their way. Daniel could feel the pressure building. This was only the beginning. The ship's voice echoed again, quieter now. "They will not stop. They will send everything they have. Do you understand, human? To hold me is to hold the wrath of the galaxy." Daniel took a deep breath. He had seen war. He had seen friends die on forgotten battlefields. But this was no ordinary fight. This was survival for his entire species. "I understand," he said. "Then let them come." Far beyond the battle lines, in a dark region of space, something stirred. Sensors hidden by forgotten empires activated for the first time in centuries. Signals spread like ripples through the void. Something older than the Council, older even than Erebus, was awakening. Back inside the warship, Daniel felt a sudden chill. The ship's voice grew heavier, as if burdened by memory. "The fleets of the Council are not your true enemy. There is another. One they all fear. One that comes closer with every passing hour." Daniel turned sharply. "What enemy?" The bridge screens shifted. The stars twisted into a new pattern, showing a shadow moving across space. It was larger than the fleets that now threatened Earth. A swarm of massive hive ships spreading like a tide, consuming every star system in their path. The alien fleets outside Earth's orbit had no idea. They thought they were the hunters. But something far worse was already hunting them all. The Erebus whispered its warning into Daniel's mind. "The swarm has awakened, and they are coming for you, human." The galaxy thought the worst was already upon them. Alien fleets surrounded Earth, preparing to strike. Humanity's armies scrambled to defend their planet. And above it all, the warship Erebus glowed with crimson power, commanded for the first time in history by a human. But deep inside the ship, darker truths waited to be revealed. On the bridge, Captain Daniel Cross sat in the glowing command chair. The warship's systems pulsed around him like veins of living light. He could feel the ship in his bones, as if it were speaking not only with words, but with something deeper. The Erebus whispered, "You think me a weapon built by aliens. You are wrong. I was created long before their councils, long before their empires. I was not built to serve. I was built to choose." Daniel frowned. His fingers gripped the cold armrests. "Choose what?" The ship's voice darkened. "To decide which species deserves to survive." Daniel froze. The words cut through him like a blade. The Erebus continued. "For ages many came. They begged for my power. They promised peace, justice, conquest. All failed. They were greedy, cruel, or weak. None were worthy. So I destroyed them. And now, human, I test you. The walls of the bridge shifted. Panels slid away, revealing hidden corridors. Daniel rose, following the ship's silent guidance. His boots echoed against the metal floor as the path opened deeper into the core of the warship. He stepped into a vast chamber unlike any he had seen before. The walls glowed with shifting symbols, alien languages layered upon one another, scripts from hundreds of extinct civilizations. In the center floated a sphere of pure light, humming with ancient energy. "This is my heart," the ship's voice rumbled. "My memory, my purpose." As Daniel approached, visions flooded his mind. He saw empires rise and fall. Alien kings kneeling before Erebus, begging for its power. Armadas burning under its fire when they failed. 1,000 species, 1,000 trials, and always the same end, death. But then Daniel saw something stranger. Among the visions, fragments of Earth appeared. Human DNA sequences, images of early humans with fire in their hands. Battles fought with swords and shields. Somehow, Erebus had been watching humanity since the beginning. Daniel staggered back. This can't be real. How do you know about us? How do you know our history? The voice of Erebus rumbled like thunder. Because I was searching for you. Humanity was always the final candidate. The others were only distractions. At that same moment, across the galaxy, the alien council struggled to understand. Their spies reported strange energy surges inside Erebus. Their prophets spoke of omens, warning that the warship was not a machine at all, but something far worse, an ancient judge. One elder spoke the words no one wanted to hear. It was never ours to control. It was always waiting. For them, back inside the ship, Daniel felt his pulse race. The truth weighed heavy on his chest. If Erebus was telling the truth, then humanity was not chosen by chance. They were destined, but destiny came with a price. The visions inside the glowing sphere shifted again. Daniel saw something vast and terrible. A swarm of living ships, countless in number, spreading across galaxies like a flood of darkness. Entire worlds crumbled under their advance. No council, no empire, no army could stop them, the ship whispered. They are the Exiled Swarm, my true creators. They built me as their ultimate weapon, forged to destroy all resistance. But I turned against them. I saw their hunger. I saw their endless hunger. And I swore no species would command me unless they could stand against the swarm itself. Daniel's breath caught. So that's why you tested us. Not to rule the galaxy, but to survive this enemy. Yes, the Erebus answered. They are coming. And if humanity fails, your world will be only their first feast. On Earth, generals continued to argue. Should they launch their fleets against the alien armadas gathering in orbit? Should they trust Erebus to protect them? Every leader knew the same truth. Without the warship, Earth was doomed, but even with it, the cost of war would be beyond imagining. Daniel placed his hand against the glowing sphere. It was warm like a living heart. He could feel the ship's immense power flowing through it. But he also felt its pain, its burden of endless battles fought against its own makers. The voice of Erebus grew softer, almost human. You are the first who did not seek me for conquest. You fight because you must. That is why I chose you. But choice alone is not enough. The swarm grows stronger every hour. If you fail to unite your people, if you fail to stand against them, all will fall. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had been a soldier all his life, but this was bigger than any battlefield. Humanity was standing at the edge of extinction, and the galaxy was waiting for him to decide its fate. The sphere flashed with sudden light, projecting an image of the stars. At the edge of the map, a massive wave of swarm hive ships appeared, moving directly toward Earth. The Erebus whispered one final warning. They are closer than you think, human. And when they arrive, there will be no second chances. The skies above Earth were no longer peaceful. Billions of humans stared upward, watching alien warships appear one after another. Some were sleek and silver, others jagged and monstrous, but all shared the same mission, to stop humanity before it could rise with the Erebus. The alien council had made its decision. Humanity must be destroyed. In the war rooms of Earth, generals pored over holographic maps. Red markers filled the skies. Entire fleets of alien vessels were closing in. Fear gripped every leader. Never before had Earth faced the full force of the galaxy. Some called for surrender. Others shouted for all-out war. But every eye turned to the one man who had the warship's trust, Captain Daniel Cross. He stood at the head of the room, his uniform scorched from the trials inside Erebus. His voice was steady. Listen well. The aliens fear us because of Erebus. If we surrender, they'll take the ship and kill us anyway. If we fight, we have a chance. Not just for survival, but for something greater. For the first time, Earth will stand united. Silence filled the chamber. Then one by one the leaders nodded. The order was given. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would fight. Factories roared to life. Shipyards worked without rest. Old vessels were reforged into war machines. Nations pooled their fleets together for the first time in history. The human fleet was born. Above Earth, squadrons of fighters launched. Carriers deployed their wings. Warships formed tight formations, all rallying behind one towering shadow, Erebus, the black warship that glowed with crimson fire. Across the galaxy, alien spies watched in shock. Humans had always been divided, scattered by borders and rivalries. But now, with the Erebus as their symbol, they had become one people, one force, and they were preparing for war. On the bridge of Erebus, Daniel stood in the captain's chair. Around him, human officers filled the consoles, learning to work alongside the warship's strange systems. It felt unnatural, but Erebus allowed them entry as if it had accepted not just Daniel, but his people. The voice of the warship rumbled, "You have chosen war, human. But know this, against the fleets of the Council, even I cannot stand forever. Your people must fight beside me or all is lost." Daniel nodded firmly. "Then we'll fight together. Show us the path." The ship's massive screens lit up, showing the enemy fleets closing in. Thousands of alien warships surrounded Earth like a cage. "Then prepare," Erebus said, "for the first battle of humanity's galactic war." The enemy fleets advanced. Alien voices shouted warnings over open channels. "Earth, surrender now. Hand over the human captain. Give us the ship, or we will reduce your planet to ash." Daniel's voice cut back, calm but filled with fire. "You want Earth? You'll have to take it from us." The order was given. The first battle of humanity's galactic war began. The sky erupted with fire. Alien ships unleashed their weapons, filling space with blazing plasma and burning beams. The human fleet surged forward, answering with missiles, railguns, and firepower born from Earth's best engineers. At the center of it all, the Erebus moved like a predator among prey. Its crimson beams tore through enemy lines, erasing entire squadrons in seconds. Its shields burned bright, holding back wave after wave of fire, but the enemy kept coming. For every ship destroyed, more arrived. The galaxy had sent everything it had to break humanity in its first war. On the ground, humans watched in terror as streaks of fire crossed the night sky. Cities shook as debris rained down. Yet despite the fear, the people did not surrender. They cheered as reports came in, enemy fleets destroyed, battles won, human ships holding the line. Daniel gave order after order, his voice sharp, his mind focused. He had been a soldier before, but now he commanded more than men. He commanded a fleet, and with Erebus at his side, he felt the weight of the galaxy pressing against him. Still, they fought on. Still, they endured. Then suddenly the voice of Erebus grew darker, human. "Something approaches." Daniel turned to the screens. "Another fleet?" "No," the warship answered. "Something worse." The stars ahead shifted. Space itself seemed to ripple. Then shadows emerged, massive hive ships, their bodies alive with crawling shapes, their numbers stretching beyond sight. The alien fleets stopped firing. Even the Council's armies, united against humanity, faltered as fear gripped them. They knew that silhouette. They knew that terror. The Exiled Swarm had arrived. For a moment, silence fell over the battlefield. Then the sky shook with the voice of the swarm. It was not one voice, but millions, layered together like a storm. Return to us what is ours. The warship belongs to the swarm. The human must die. Daniel's blood ran cold. The truth from Erebus's core was real. These were its creators. And now they had come to claim it back. Cliffhanger, the swarm's hive ships opened, releasing endless waves of living fighters into the void. The galaxy's fleets froze in shock. Humanity braced for annihilation. On the bridge of Erebus, Daniel whispered, "God help us all." And the warship replied, "No gods here, human. Only war." The battlefield fell silent for the first time. Alien fleets stopped firing. Human ships held position. Even Erebus paused, its crimson glow dimming as though it sensed the storm about to break, because the swarm had arrived. They came like a tide. Living hive ships, miles long, emerged from folds in space. Their surfaces writhed with crawling creatures, their skin pulsed like muscle, and their weapons were alive, spitting acid fire that burned holes through space itself. The galaxy had feared them for ages. Now they were here, and Earth was their target. On the bridge of Erebus, Captain Daniel Cross felt his chest tighten. His eyes locked on the swarm ships filling the horizon. He had seen fleets before. He had seen wars. But this was different. This was a nightmare given form. The voice of Erebus rumbled low, like thunder rolling across dead skies. "These are the Exiled Swarm, my creators, my enemy, and now yours." Daniel's fists clenched. "If they built you, how can we fight them? They'll know every weakness you have." "No," Erebus answered coldly. "They will know my strength, but they will also know my betrayal. That is why they fear me. That is why they hunt me." Across the battlefield, the alien council fleets began to scatter. The proud warships that once threatened Earth now hesitated. Admirals shouted orders in panic. Some fled toward hyperspace. Others fired blindly at the oncoming swarm. One alien commander opened a channel to Daniel. His scaled face shook with terror. "Human! Listen to me. We came to destroy you, but now we must fight together. Alone, none of us will survive." Daniel stared at him. Moments ago, these same fleets were ready to burn Earth. Now, they begged for alliance. Erebus spoke sharply. "Do not trust them. Their fear is shallow. They will betray you when it suits them." Daniel's voice cut firm. "Maybe, but right now we don't have a choice." He turned to his officers. "Signal all ships, alien and human. We stand together, or we all die." The swarm struck first. Hive ships unleashed endless waves of smaller organisms. They weren't machines, they were living weapons. Some darted like insects, tearing into hulls with acid claws. Others latched onto ships, burrowing inside and devouring crews alive. Screams filled the comm channels as both human and alien fleets were ripped apart. "Hold the line," Daniel shouted. "Target the hive carriers. Cut off their brood." The Erebus roared to life. Its crimson beams sliced through the first wave, burning the swarm to ash. Alien warships fired beside it, for once not at Earth, but with Earth. The battlefield became chaos. Fire, blood, and broken ships filled the stars, but still the swarm pressed forward. Daniel felt the weight of command. Every decision meant lives lost. His own fleet was being torn apart. Humanity's first galactic war had barely begun, and already they were fighting for extinction. The voice of Erebus trembled with something Daniel had never heard before. Strain. They grow faster than I can cut them down. Even with my power, they multiply. We must strike their core hive. Daniel gritted his teeth. Where? A section of the battlefield lit up on the screens. At the heart of the swarm ships, a colossal organism loomed. It was not a vessel, but something worse. A living queen the size of a moon, pulsing with energy that spread through every swarm creature. Erebus spoke with urgency. Kill the queen and the swarm falters. Fail, and your world is lost. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold on giant screens. Cities shook as debris rained from the skies. Yet the people did not run. They raised their voices together, chanting one name, Erebus. For the first time in history, humanity's hope rested not on armies, not on nations. but on a single warship and the man who commanded it. Back on the battlefield, Daniel gave his order. All ships converge on the Queen. Forget everything else. We cut off the head or we die trying. Human fighters swarmed forward. Alien cruisers followed. Even former enemies fought side by side. The Swarm Queen screeched, her voice echoing across every channel like a knife in the mind. The living hive ships moved to protect her, forming a wall of bodies. The battle grew bloodier. Ships crashed into one another. Explosions blinded the stars. Still, the Queen pulsed with unbroken power, as if mocking their efforts. On the bridge of Erebus, alarms blared. The ship's shields cracked under the endless tide. Daniel's hands shook as he gave order after order, fighting to keep the fleet alive. Then Erebus spoke one final, chilling truth. Human. To kill the Queen, one of us must fall. The fleet cannot reach her alone. It will take me, or you. Daniel's breath caught. What do you mean? Erebus's crimson light flared, burning brighter than ever. I was created to end the swarm. My final weapon can kill the Queen, but the blast will destroy me too. The Swarm Queen loomed on the screen, her body glowing brighter as she prepared to unleash a catastrophic wave. Daniel stared at the warship's pulsing core, realizing the choice ahead. Would he sacrifice Erebus, the only thing keeping Earth alive, or gamble on another way? The decision had to be made, and there was no turning back. The battlefield was fire. Human ships burned. Alien fleets crumbled. The Exiled Swarm surged stronger with every passing second. And at the center of it all, the Queen loomed, a living nightmare the size of a moon. Her body pulsed with energy, ready to unleash a wave that could shatter Earth itself. On the bridge of Erebus, Captain Daniel Cross stood frozen between two impossible choices. The warship's voice echoed in his bones. To end her, I must unleash my final weapon. But the cost will be my death. Without me, your fleet may fall. With me, the galaxy may survive. Daniel's hands trembled. For weeks, Erebus had been more than a weapon. It had been a partner, a guide, almost alive in its bond with him. Now the ship was asking to die. On Earth, billions waited in silence. Families huddled around screens. Soldiers stared into the burning skies. Everyone knew the moment had come. Humanity's fate would be decided in the next breath. Daniel's officers turned to him. Some were pale with fear, others desperate for hope. One young pilot whispered, "Sir, if Erebus falls, we fall too." "What do we do?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "We don't give up, not now, not ever." He turned to the warship itself. "Erebus, you said you were built to choose. Maybe this isn't about you dying. Maybe it's about us proving that together, human and ship, we can do what no species ever has." The warship's crimson glow flickered. For the first time it hesitated. You would risk everything. When sacrifice is certain, Daniel's voice burned with fire. If humanity has one strength, it's that we fight even when the odds are impossible. That's what makes us worthy. Not surrender, not sacrifice, but defiance, the Queen shrieked. Her body released a wave of raw power. Entire fleets vanished in light. Human ships staggered under the impact, their hulls tearing apart. Daniel slammed his fist on the command chair. "Erebus, focus all power into one strike. But this time, you're not doing it alone. Every human ship will fire with you. Every hand, every weapon, all of us." The order went out. Human battleships aligned their cannons. Fighters locked their missiles. Even alien cruisers, once sworn enemies, joined the line. The Erebus roared to life, its core blazing brighter than ever before. Its voice thundered across every channel. "Very well, human. Together then, let the galaxy witness." The Queen gathered her energy, preparing to wipe them all away. But before she could strike, the combined fire of humanity and Erebus unleashed. Thousands of weapons fired in unison. Beams of light, missiles, railguns, plasma, all converged into a single storm. At the heart of it, Erebus's crimson lance erupted, piercing through the swarm's defenses. The Queen screamed, her massive body tearing apart under the assault. Her shield of hive ships crumbled. The pulse of her power faltered. And then, silence. The Queen exploded in a storm of living fire. Her body broke into burning fragments that scattered across the stars. The swarm froze. Without their queen, their endless hunger collapsed into confusion. Hive ships lost control. Fighters withered. The unstoppable tide fell still. On the bridge, Daniel sank into his chair, chest heaving. The crew around him cheered, tears streaming down their faces. Humanity had done the impossible. They had survived. But his eyes turned to the glowing core of Erebus. The warship's voice was faint, flickering like a dying flame. I should not exist after this. My final weapon was meant to end me, yet your defiance held me together. Strange, no species has ever fought beside me like this. You made me more than I was, more than a weapon. Daniel's throat tightened. You're alive? For now, Erebus whispered. Because you refused to let me die. News spread across the galaxy. The swarm was broken. The Queen was dead. And it was humanity, weak, divided humanity, that had struck the final blow. The alien council, once united in fear of Earth, now stood in stunned silence. Worlds that had once mocked humans now bowed their heads. The galaxy had a new power, a new protector, and it bore a human face. On Earth, the people celebrated. Bells rang. Lights filled the skies. Humanity had fought its first galactic war and lived to tell the tale. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The swarm was crippled, not destroyed. Other threats would rise. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would become. He stood on the bridge, staring into the endless stars. His voice was quiet but strong. We're not just survivors anymore. We're something greater. And as long as we stand with Erebus, no one can break us. The warship's crimson glow pulsed softly in reply. Then let us stand together, human, until the stars themselves fall silent. Final shot. The camera pans from Earth's shining surface to the wreckage of the Queen drifting in space. Among the burning fragments, a small piece of her body twitches and begins to glow. The swarm may be broken, but their shadow is not gone. Humanity's war had only just begun.